Hey everybody, welcome to Roleplay Cafe. It's Dell here. Thought I'd get on here my lunch break. And talk about character. This is Jason did the last recap of the Simba Room session, and he mentioned that my character Thariah died in part one of session 11. Now, I approached him, and he's been over this in the recap. Did a really good job of stating everything. But I think he said one thing that kind of got me thinking along the lines when I requested that give playing Thariah a shot as playing him as an undead character. So Simba Room allows that. He said, "Sure, sure." So it was in a way for me to kind of I like to explore the possibilities of Simba Room if a setting allows that, then it would be interesting to me to see how the party would interface with that. And like Jason said, it was warranted to a certain degree from what had happened before, previously, in other sessions. But the character, um, it's funny, when Jason said, what triggered me coming on here is when he said it might be limiting for me to play an undead character. He wouldn't be able to go in town. He would, be seen as something that would be unwanted. Uh, and and he's right in a lot of ways with that. But it's peculiar that whenever I play a character, um, well, first of all, the world of Symbaroum is, there's enough lore and there's enough. I love when a game gives you a little bit of the political dynamics and religious tensions, just the social aspects of the world. Racially, where there may be some friction in between the races or whatnot, and to play off of. And you get to, you can get a little sense of what it may be like for a certain character. Nothing too overly detailed, but enough to where you know where that character's place in the world might be, and know how you might be able to play off of that. And it would have been a challenge to do an undead character, but I like approaching characters to where it gives me a challenge to see characters who may be ousted from society or not part of polite society, so to speak, or even barbaric society. For that, even in that respect. But so that was interesting. That was interesting to open up that and see how David and Todd would respond to that. So we played it, and I wandered out of the cave as Thariah, and I did it in a little way like probably Frankenstein, of coming to awake in a new realization. Whenever it's like a rebirth. So it's why I said stumbling out of the cave, breaking that membrane into that. It's like coming out of the womb again. In game, I said that when he came out, and every step he take, I tried to subtly display through motion, through action, not through words, convey it to Todd and David that or Malleus and Cabello, their characters, that what they were witnessing was a little bit more sure-footedness and a little bit more of a curiosity and recognition in the way he was shifting his attention, and it could see a light bulb going off, or him looking around quizzically and kind of getting his bearings and more of a solid footing, to give them some impression that maybe he wasn't at a total loss, or in a stagnant state of total zombie like behavior. That he was maybe possibly could progressively get more self-aware and aware of his surroundings. Like when the boy Bonner was waking up, he turned his head and looked over there and started started moving, and even when David got in front of him and as Malleus and put the sword out, and Thoriah walked into it and looked down at it, and he had that realization that he wasn't feeling pain. That's why I said, doing the thing, he's trying to look at his hand, he's trying to self-monitor, as it were, and see what's going on. So it's funny that when you're playing a character like that, especially at the onset, right there, the second word he said, he was trying to say Bonner, and he was trying to say his own name to let them know, like he was, that self-realization, he's Thoriah, but he couldn't get it fully out, because, the undead don't breathe unless they're trying to force some air out to make some kind of sound. So that was interesting in that respect. It's just when you got command of a character and you're trying to articulate or trying to represent that character through more than just verbally. You have to do it in a way of being descriptive, and aside from that, their comfort level would have been it would have been up to them the way they wanted to, But I believe that they got the full thing of what Thoriah was, what he was going through, and then they wasn't having it ultimately, and they had concern with the boy Bonner. Now I knew this going in, even if they would have accepted him, like Jesse said, pull up a seat to the fire, what do you want for breakfast or not? I knew that that Bonner was there, and even Bonner, he was a little bit of a tabula rasa. He was a blank slate from the start, so I didn't bother with doing pre-making a character sheet for him. I knew I had Thoriah's character sheet, and I would just tweak that, because he couldn't necessarily be a staff mage anymore. And maybe he could, but I had a little bit of I knew that the party, we do need to round out the party more or less, and it did weigh somewhat on my decisions. It needs a healer, of some aspect. With the Thoriah, you might go from the Frankenstein, like, sewing cadaver skin into parts to repair. So even himself or on others or whatnot. I like trying to come up with unique character aspects beyond what just any textbook may suggest. To give them to give your character a distinct aspect and a uniqueness about them, to make them memorable. Because at the end of the day, that's what you want, is memorable characters, memorable, memorably interacting with their situations in game and their other party members and other NPCs, and not just doing it, as a rock star or just throwing everything out there, but it has to be genuine to what that character is and their worldview and how they relate to the world. So, but when they took Thoriah out, I slid into Bonner's shoes at that point, but and I wanted it to be a blank. What would he do? What would this boy do? I knew, like, I just began reading. If you watch the video, I'll be reading the traits and skills and what have you, to try to give me some inkling of what something, a little spark of inspiration to see what he may do. But I knew this boy was abducted at some point, and the Iron Pact will do this. They'll replace them with changelings. But then they implement the humans into their number, into their ranks. Now, it's not that Thoriah was Iron Pact, but obviously there was something that happened there where he got the boy. Well, I knew that this boy was gotten on an eclipse night, where Thoriah was able to get in there and get him and take him out. And there is a trait that where if you're born like that, you get basically a +1 hiding shadows and whatnot, but that went along with later on when I was reading the skills. What would he do? Well, first off, Bonner had been he had whenever Thariah was taken by the fungal goblins, so to speak, the blind ones, and he was led and became transfixed with them and just went off, and then had to go through that whole episode to where he was taken out and gone for 72 hours, and uh, you know they drug his body out. Bonner wasn't there to see it, but he obviously heard about it afterwards, and heard about all the commotion that went around town as those winged creatures did what they did during the night. The whole town knew about that. But his master, Thariah, was part and parcel of what was going on there. So he had to look, and when that would have happened to Thariah, he had to realize that something had gone on. You know, there were, Cabello, when he was with the NPC that had taken him there, the NPC mentioned that there was a black cloak that had infiltrated into that cult of Prios to find out what was going on exactly, and managed to escape and alert them to that fact, and they were watching him down there. So this cultic activity that was going in that area underneath town, that warranted possibly some of this happening, inside of the lore of Symbaroum. But that has to be that. There's not really a overly defined aspect of that. That way, it can be passed on to David. He can do whatever he wants to if he so chooses. It come back around to me. We are having a round robin DM on this, but there's enough wiggle room there that could be supposed to happen. So when he came out as undead, and Bonner had to see this, and being totally corrupt as the undead are, how would he view Thariah as already been susceptible to being corrupted? Totally. Was he the type of, was Thariah being instructed by someone who was corrupt and hiding it, beforehand? So what was this? So, hey, Jason. Yeah, I didn't know the chat popped up like this. Just speaking about character in general, and specifically the Symbaroum game, the last game we had was Symbaroum. But to pick right back up, Bonner had watched all of that happen and heard things and been privy to different things that would have probably affected him in some in some mindset to see when he did see Thariah and that happened to him. So he had to get to a point when he stood up. I remember being in the veil in that fog. Yeah, that mist, that corrupt, shrouded mist, and looking through the traits and skills and whatnot, especially for theology. He had there was one unnoticeable, but see, all of those, all of everything requires trait wise or whatever, requires a material component that required a veil, which I took the liberty of saying that the mist was a veil itself. So I used that in respect to try to cast that, and just with Bonner being so not being so forward, or having the ability to outwardly fight like the others, he would have been the one to kind of pivot around or get behind or make himself unseen, as it were. So it fell into who he kind of naturally was up to this point as a person inside of the group, inside of the party. He'd carry the luggage, but other than that, he would duck out. Even in that other instance, he was hiding behind the rock. Where Thariah told to get him. So that was what he was predisposed to do. And so that trait, I picked it up on the fly as we went. The other, whenever he bumped into the Iron Pack elf, when he was trying to slink off, that that literally the only one other that didn't require a material component was calling the help of Prios, which in that situation is exactly what he would have done, and it's what he did, and that beautifully worked into calling down a holy guardian to stand in his stead. But his whole mindset of seeing evil and evil, incarnate in his master in 100% corruption, he would have been more of a mindset to take out and kind of take out evil. See, the way I see him now is, he's seen a manifested realization of what Prios can do and how Prios came down and stepped in his way. So the light has shone off on him and given him some kind of direction in his life after his master moved on, and that only made sense. And also taking out the evil, which Malleus did, but also how he saw evil corrupt his master 100-fold, 10%, 100%, then he would want to banish that evil and get rid of it, eradicate it. And seeing his master, even thinking that his master would not fold to that or bend to that, and he did. Was it in fact that anybody could be susceptible? So it's even more where the evil has to be taken out. That's where symbolically, whenever he asked, it's like you get one chance, one shot at redemption. And whenever the elf was like, "Don't kill me," so he said, will you come to the light? Yeah, I'd rather die. I'd rather y'all. And he just turned his back. That's why I said symbolically, Bonner just turned his back on him. And Malleus did what he had to do. What he didn't want to see it, or he couldn't see. He just watched his master headless. And they had to burn his body, so he turned his back on him. But he'll give you one shot. But he's more like to me a former cultist, a little bit, as well as somebody who wishes to turn others. And I think there was another class in there from the theology aspects where you want to eradicate the evil. There's no half core, half measure with that. You take it out. You give them a chance if they it's for their own sake too. Just like Malleus said, taking out Theriah was for his own good. That's what you do. You release them from that bondage. So that was interesting. But I also thought it was interesting that if they would have invited Theriah to sit down, I'd be more than willing to do that, because he was already out. He was already living out of town anyway. I didn't think that would be much of a thing. Outside as Theriah is the human, he would have did the same thing as an undead. He could have cloaked himself, had in mind that he was a shape changer. Yeah, other than using probably some kind of makeup, but he could have shape changed in certain ways, to get out of the situation. But it would have been interesting to me to change into some kind of an undead little squirrel or skunk, as he so readily jumped into the guise of from time to time. But it was interesting. It was interesting. But yeah, I could have played either. I think more so anything, it might have been. It would have been interesting to see how he would have went. Yeah, Malice is a veteran. Your message pops up for a second, then disappears. So, but let me see if I can pull it up here. But anyway, yeah, I don't know how. I'm a newbie at this. I'm green. But anyway, yeah, it was interesting. It would be interesting to see if they would have accepted him, how they would have, carried on with them, if he had stayed outside of the party or whatnot. But I definitely thought, just from working with that, he wouldn't necessarily been a healer, but he would have been somebody that could work almost in a negative way, and went into different areas or stood in are stepped up whenever they couldn't really, when it was dangerous for them to step up themselves. So he could have worked That'd be the yin and yang aspect. But Bonner will be a fine healer. I mean, he's got the it's not lay on hands. It's the other one. I think it's a healing type of thing. It doesn't require it, you know. But he's gonna have to get some kind of yeah. He does the dirty work for the development. Yeah, Bonner could be the consciousness for the group. I don't know. I don't know. See him. He's a little bit too. I don't think he wants to coddle anyone. You know, he's there to eradicate evil. So he's a little bit of zealotry in him. You know, it's like he's hardened to that evil, and he sees the evil in the world, and he wants to get down to business, take it out. So, but that's the way. But it was interesting just building that character as it went along from his history and the other games, and where he would find his footing and gain purchase inside the party. But I think they're going to need him, you know. So it's going to be good. Can't wait to continue on. I think what David's got the next one. We got Joth coming up. Joth's been interesting itself. But yeah, and speaking about weekend play, we do need to pick up on that and start rotating something out. Maybe even tomorrow. But anyway, lunch break over. I get back to it, and everybody take care out there. All right. If I can figure out how to turn this off, I'll be good to go. Bye.